Welcome to the Corona meditation. And suddenly here we are in isolation during this Corona time. And there is this comparative mind. And for many people, there's a conflict around that. A natural, a very organic kind of conflict. Just in feeling that, oh shit, I'm at home. I'm at home with nothing to do. I'm bored. Maybe it's that, or maybe it's a whole reconsideration of every area that you've invested into in your life. The simple openness that you now feel at home, where you're no longer bound to your job, and there's maybe a sense of lostness, a sense of no expectation, a sense of hopelessness. It is this exact hopelessness that is open, that is yourself without all the parameters of society's demands and so on. And everyone shares this. Everyone is alone. And in this we are together. If there was just the slightest constant sense of this, the way in which we would be together would be radically revolutionary, radically hopeful. Radically caring, radically compassionate, radically supportive. There's only one world. There's only one world. The world that you've been living for is the world of the other. But everyone's been living for that. And here's the great mystery, the great cosmic joke. When everyone stops living for the other's world, you realize there's only one world, and that world is yours. Hopelessness, in this case, is delicious. It is the furthest thing from incapacitation, from paralysis. It's the very opposite. Without bringing too much of a meditative mind, just conjure up, just arouse the very particular ideas of what's changed for you right now. Maybe you're not making money right now. Maybe you're concerned for employees who you can't pay and you're concerned for their well-being. Maybe it's a concern for some mechanics at work that can't be attended to. And for those of us with Corona, including this person, so you'll forgive any moments of weakness or indeterminate thinking, then maybe there's the sensitivity for my fate. Where am I going? Will I be okay? If you're young, okay. If you have loved ones who are older, who are in a state of uncertainty or illness, then your thoughts are with them. So if you know yourself only in terms of your relationship to society or your participation in society or how people expect you, anticipate your performance and so on, right? And what you anticipate and expect from yourself, if that's how you know yourself, then really use this time. Really use this time. And have the slightest inkling that everyone else who has their wits about them is using this time as well. And if they are, then everyone is coming to the same ground zero of no societal fear. And those who are not taking that up, you say, well, not everyone is letting go of their acquisitive fears. Not everyone is letting go of their sense of power over others. Not everyone is doing that. Is that the reason why you should retain your own sense of fear, sense of obligation to things that might not really be your authentic truth, that might not be you? Make this about you. Those who will come out best from this will retain a sense of home, a sense of self-truth, a sense of the lostness, the hopelessness. Okay? Hope, in this case, is like anticipation or expectation. being nowhere, being lost at home, allows you this sense of new hope, a comfort about hopelessness. And insofar as you can be at home in the way that you're forced to be at home right now, then you will always have a sense of who you are and where you're going, and how everyone is included, can be included into this life that is your life, this world that is your world. You've abandoned your world by taking up the other's world. And just as you reclaim your own world, you might be able in time to encourage others to find their own world. Oh man. If I could just give you a little bit of taste of yourself, the impenetrable, immutable, unchanging self. But I can't, because it's yours to take. Only you can give yourself freedom. If somebody else could give it to you, it wouldn't be your freedom. What really has changed? Are you suddenly, truly alone? Were you alone before when you were amongst people? Were you not always with yourself? And suddenly now there's the confusion about having to be only with yourself. This meditation consists in the integration and the resolution of these apparent two things. Your confused circumstance, this fucked up situation, and the self that sees it from a place that isn't confused. That's the only way you can see the confusion, because there's a vantage point that is seeing clearly the confusion. So that makes sense. Now the second thing that's required for this meditation is just the slightest sense of what I'm talking about. A slightest inkling of yourself. The one who's suddenly alone at home. The one who's on his pillow or on her pillow, sitting there with a sense of me. A sense of aloneness, a sense of solitude, a sense of the self that you haven't had time to spend with for so long. You. But so quickly, so easily, we discard this. We're unable to see that there is this unchanging self from which you see all of your confusion, or you have all of this confusion, where your circumstances are all fucked up. So as you make deep contact with yourself, then you really carefully notice that you only are able to compare and experience this confusion because there's awareness. There is an awareness of this peaceful self. It's the peaceful self that's getting rattled and confused that is proof of this peaceful self. We only see the confusion from a place of ourself, or stillness, or peace. It's the feeling that things have gone out of peace that is proof that we are aware of peace. So this is a kind of double bind, conflict, that's there without arousing it. It's there automatically. It's there just because it's life. So all you need to do to reconcile or integrate or resolve this conflict is meet it. So in this meditation, it only works if, in the first place, there is confusion, and we really need to have a sense of doubt in any good practice. So what is the doubt for you? When am I going to go back to work? When are things going to get back to normal? When can I go hang out with my friends? When can I see my family? There's a saying in Zen, big doubt, big awakening. Small doubt, small awakening. No doubt, no awakening. So there are these two apparent things. All of this confusion and conflict, and you. What about if we were to go right to the happiness? We can put all our energy into something so that it can return for us. Our happiness is what's returned to us by projecting the idea of happiness into good work or good time with family or whatever. We get happiness back. But is that really sufficient? What about if we were to go right to the happiness? Right to the happiness. If things don't yield back, then we don't have happiness. And likewise with our family, we put all our expectation. I've been working hard for you. I've been bringing home the bacon. I've been spending time with the kids. It's your turn. And all the rest. We're hoping for a kind of return, a transactional happiness. Right? Some things are instrumental to your life, and some things just keep the distraction going. And if they're cluttered enough, and you neglect what's underneath, which is you, then suddenly there's a great sense of ricochet. Oh shit, I've put all my energy into going down to Wall Street. It must arise from this very subtle, private sense of yourself that you're suddenly remembering in this isolation time. It's been there all the time. You just cover it up with many other things. All the things that you've wanted to do for yourself, all the dreams you have, would be of such inestimable value. Because most of the things that we do in life are things that we feel obligated to do, or things that society has told us to do, or even fear has told us to do. Oh, I'm competent in math, so what should I do? Well, there's no real jobs in math. I better get a marketing job, right? But there's so little sacrifice in that. Well, what happens is, just naturally, the whittling down, the grinding down of what is most authentic for you gets lost. And it becomes impossible to follow your heart. It becomes impossible to access your dreams or a vision of your dreams with actionable plans. It becomes impossible. We become path dependent. We become dependent on our path, and that becomes our path. What we choose becomes what we want. And then what we want becomes what we come to choose. And what we come to choose becomes what we want, and so on. That becomes our path. We become path dependent. And the fact that this is all so malleable, it can change just by our intentions, is proof that there's nothing really definitive that is our path. There's nothing definitive that is your identity. You entirely create it. But there are these impulses that we must bring incredible attention to. And this corona time is a time where these impulses can really get checked into. They can become, if you like, rewired by getting to the source of the, what's it called, the motherboard. The motherboard. So you are the motherboard. And I've already ruined it for you by telling you that. You must access it, this motherboard, in feeling your aloneness. By feeling the secret self that is you, with whom you have thoughts that are only yours on your pillow. So when I ask you, what are you? Or who are you? And you have all these images and memories and thoughts about your accomplishments, or even at the simplest level, I am a boy, right? Or I am a student, or I am a worker at so-and-so. All these things have the opportunity to be reset in a society that is now just at home with no alignments. Nothing is going on. The question of what is society and what am I in society becomes emptied. And so for many people in this time, the realization of neglect is a realization that you are already where you should have been. Oh, the wife is here.
Sorry?
Hi, the wife.
Hi, you said that you're gonna come outside, but if I'm not gonna invite you, you never come outside this room.
Okay, it's time to go get a humidifier.
Humiliator.
A humiliator? Oh, wow. This was too delicious. Go pick yourself up a humiliator. If you can have a sense of humiliation, if you can look within and feel sorry for yourself, all the shame, all the expectation, all the identification you've had, and suddenly, oh my God, I've had enough of this. The sense of meaninglessness, the sense of hopelessness, the sense of just being alone is loosening my sense of, oh shit, all the cool things I need to show up for in this imaginary world of mine. Look within and feel sorry. Get your humiliator. Feel humiliated. This is not an affirmation, oh, be humiliated, be humiliated. No, the shame comes all by itself because you've identified with this false self of the other's world. But alone, at home now, that is the self of your world. Full, complete, and maybe bored. And in this boredom, put right into the center of this boredom, put this question: who wants to get this shit done? Who wants to get rid of the anxiety that I have because I'm not at work? Who wants to know when the sickness is going to be over? And the one who's asking is completely at peace, is completely here, completely open, hopeless. There's no need for hope here.
We all gonna die.
It's not like that, honey. Why don't you die right now? Die right now. And what have you got?
I know what I've got.
The whole world.
Let's cry together.
I take your corona.
Thank you.
I give you my corona.
I humiliate you.
I humiliate you.
Oh.
Think of it as trying to fit the whole world through a tiny pinhole. Imagine that. Trying to fit the whole world through a tiny needle. Of course you can't. But what can you do? Oh, maybe you can drop the needle. And what are you left with? What are you left with? The whole world. The whole world. You know this saying, a millionaire is poor because all he has is his millions. And if you put into these thoughts this very subtle surgical blade of who is worried, who is bored.
Not knowing. Ta-da.
Agata said, not knowing. If you ask this question in an intellectual way, you're sitting there and you're saying, who is bored? I am. Oh, this doesn't work. This is not the practice. In Zen, this question is put in this way. What was my face before my parents were born? And it's so radical, right? It's such an absurd question, you might think at first. But if you dig right into the absurdity of this question, then what are you being pointed to? The face. You can almost just conjure up a sense of timelessness, a sense of eternity before your parents were born. What was my face before my parents were born? Can you feel a stillness in that? An unborn quality. Like an empty void out of which the sun rises in the morning. Is this something that you're feeling right now, alone or in isolation at home? Can you detect this quiet, peaceful self that suddenly seems to be cut off from the rest of the world? This secret self, as Leonard Cohen would say. If you can detect this self that exists outside of the so-called world out there, if you can detect this self that is here, and really look at whether it's not always here, right? If you can detect this self, you can start to taste a part of yourself that never goes away. People say, oh, this corona time is a great time for change to happen. Maybe. Or maybe you'll just forget everything and go back to shit and reestablish your sense of meaning and value through these relationships, which are self-identifying processes. Or you can be self-creating by never leaving home, whether you're inside or outside of the house. That's where so many people's confusion is coming from. Suddenly we're all at home and we're wondering who we are and what's the meaning and why am I so bored, because my sense of self is being disentangled from
Lost
from its normal reference points.
Exactly.
In society,
Scary times.
in the world, your sense of identity that comes from society. Oh, this is a time to reset, people are saying. And it's because they feel that they're remembering themselves. Here's the news. You've always been disentangled. You've always been open. You've always been at home. Who dares to forget themselves? As you're sitting in stillness, upright with your back straight, who dares to forget themselves? Who dares to assign all of their sense of meaning and identity into their relationships with their job, with the outside world, with friends, with the expectations of family, of parents, and so on? Who dares? When I say who dares, we're not asking for you to think about it or to get some sense of righteousness or affirmation, right? That is not it. It's from the place of complete aloneness, of isolation, of hopelessness, of nakedness, of disconnection from the world which is slowly dissolving around you, this, outside world. It's dissolving because we're just separated physically from it. and that's causing an effect on us. And as this effect is aroused, as it grows, as it flowers, then who dares give themselves over their sense of meaning and purpose to these relationships? Only, yes, have delicious, delightful relationships, but from a place that is authentically you. This very subtle experience of home that you now are tasting in this quarantine time. Right? And if you haven't, begin.